Hello, everyone. My name is Chris. You can find me across social media as the Baba Duchess. I am a movie critic, horror blogger, drive-in mutant, and this is my horror channel. And today I'm going to be talking about the movie Undertone. This is the latest from A24, and I know a lot of people have just a very love it or hate it relationship with that studio. I personally am a big fan of most everything A24 puts out there. I'm usually in the mood for a decent arty type horror film, but we do not say elevated horror on this channel because elevated horror is a stupid term.
Go ahead.
Elevated horror is a term used by people who hate horror to describe horror films that they like.
Horror films that are on the arty side of things are not better than, a slasher or a creature feature. It just means that they're arty. And I like my creature features and my slashers too. So let's just all stop using the term elevated horror because it is divisive and dumb. I could go on, but I won't. Now, to start off, I really liked the promotion around this one. Just a couple teaser trailers that really didn't give much away, except that this was going to be something where you would be hearing more than you would be seeing. And hey, I like it when a film can leave something up to the viewer's imagination. This movie centers around a character named Evie, and she is staying with her mother, who is in a coma and dying. So I guess it really wouldn't be an A24 movie without some sort of emotional trauma, although this doesn't really lean too heavily into that. Evie is a podcast co host with her friend Justin, and they talk about a lot of paranormal stuff, and they kind of have these roles that they play where she is the skeptic when they start talking about these cases, and he is very much the believer. Kind of a Mulder and Scully dynamic going on. She is from the US, he is located in London, and they do their recording sessions at 2:30 in the morning US time. Justin has just been sent this email that has these 10 audio files of this man named Mike and his wife Jessa. And he has been recording her while she's been sleeping because she's been talking in her sleep. And as these recordings progress, things keep getting more and more weird. It goes from maybe just singing in her sleep to saying nonsense words, almost like a chant, to sleepwalking, and then hearing thumps around the house. And each file gets more and more intense with these weird things that are happening with this couple. But yet each file is only a couple minutes long at most. In between these recording sessions, we see Evie caring for her mother, who, like I said, is comatose, and it really is just a matter of time before she is gone. We see that her mother had been a very religious woman. There's a lot of Catholic imagery around the house, little statues, artwork. You see where Evie had obviously been raised very Catholic. You see pictures of Evie from her first communion. So this is a very religious family, even though Evie does not seem to really be practicing that anymore. Along with the tape that they are listening to, they also start researching children's songs like London Bridge, where Jessa, in her sleep, as her husband's recording her, is singing London Bridge. And so Evie and Justin start investigating all of the lore that is around various children's songs. Like, I know I heard that Ring Around the Rosie was originally about the Black Plague. I don't know if that is actually true. There's so much lore about these songs, so sometimes it's hard to wade through where we actually think it came from and what just kind of got accepted as truth. So I found that to be a very interesting part of the story, because Evie, she has become very interested in the song Baba Black Sheep. It's one that her mother sang to her a lot as a child. So she starts looking into that one, if that one has any sinister meanings. And of course, because this is a horror movie, we start playing these songs backwards. I'm an 80s kid, so I remember in like the mid 80s where not only did we have the satanic panic, but it also was this panic that if you played some of these like heavy metal albums backwards, they were these chants to the devil. So that piece of the story did kind of amuse me a little bit. It's fun to see how that lore changes, a couple generations later. As weird things and noises start going on in these recordings, so they start playing them back slower, repeated, and then, of course, hearing things that they didn't catch the first time. Sometimes a whispered word, or sometimes a demonic sounding voice. And as things get stranger, the more recordings they listen to, things start getting stranger in Evie's house as she is taking care of her mother. Some of the things happening in the tape start happening in her mother's home. And again, this movie is all about what you hear rather than what you see. And the sound is amazing. I was a little afraid of, even though the theater where I go does have a very good sound system, I didn't know how the sound mixing would be. So, whether or not I would be able to hear a lot of little things, or if I would feel like I was missing something because I don't have headphones on, but I did not feel that way. I don't know if maybe when they release it for home viewing, maybe some people will pick up on some more things with headphones on. That would be kind of neat. But you really could feel the sound and pick it up from different parts of the theater. It really surrounded you. So, for a movie that really was about that aspect, it was done extremely well. In a lot of ways, it was basically kind of like paranormal activity, only it was about just what you could hear. And now that might turn some of you off right away. I personally am a big fan of paranormal activity. And this is where I tell you that I didn't enjoy this one as much as I wanted to. It definitely is not a bad movie. It is very well made. It is very well acted. Like I said, you only see two actors on screen. That's Evie and her mother. Everyone else you just hear through the podcast or the tapes. And while I was invested in the story, it really felt like not really a whole lot was going on. I know that that is a familiar, complaint, like, I've heard people say that about Paranormal Activity, and fair enough, but with this one, that's how I felt. It does slowly build, and I am someone who does appreciate a slow burn, but you also have to have a payoff, and I kind of felt like the payoff was kind of there, but not enough for me. I don't need everything to be, wrapped up perfectly in a little box, but I also like to feel like I have some sort of grasp of what was going on. And it just didn't feel that way to me, where it just sort of ended. And yes, there was some, creepy stuff going on, but I had that feeling of, and this was a tough one for me to rate. I'm going to give it 2.5 top hats. I do feel like that's a little harsh because, like I said, it is well made, it is well acted, sound was used very well. I just don't feel like there was a ton of story with Evie. I was more invested with this couple on these audio files than I was with the character we were actually interacting with. So I feel 2.5 is kind of a harsh rating, but 3 might be giving it a little too much credit. I know I'm overthinking it. I like to be fair. But overall, for me, it was almost a weaker version of Paranormal Activity. I just wanted to like it more. Sometimes movies, they have a lot of great individual pieces, but when you finally put them all together, it just doesn't quite work. It's just a little off. And I think that's the best way to describe how I feel about this film. But it also might really work for you. I mean, this one is just really dependent on the viewer. This one I would have like a hard time recommending to someone if I didn't know what their personal taste was. So if you were curious about it, I would say take a chance on it. You may very well like it more than I did. But if you weren't quite sure, maybe not. So unfortunately, this one was underwhelming, but it did have some things in it that I did appreciate. It just didn't tie it together enough for me. So if you've stuck with me this long and you visited my channel before, you probably notice I do have a new set going on. I'm still messing around with my light setup and my background. I do have a new microphone, which I find ironic since I'm using it for the first time to talk about a movie that is very much about sound. After we see how the Oscars turn out, I am going to do a video about the history of horror at the Oscars. It won't really be a deep dive, but we might kind of head into the deep end just a little bit. I have many thoughts. I've pretty much been living at the movie theater since I've been watching all of the Best Picture nominees on top of all of the great horror that has been coming out this month. So I will have some more reviews and some other just fun horror topics to talk about. As always, please like, share, subscribe, comment, all that stuff helps me out a lot. I know I took a little bit of a break, but I'm going to be posting more regularly, so stick with me. And remember, like what you like, don't be a dick, and empathy is a superpower.